This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back to the show. We are here with Dr. Dladla. She's the founder of Gramercy Park Integrative, based out of New York City, and helping so many people with their mind, body, soul, and so much more. Welcome back to the show today, Doc. How are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to see you.
Perfect. Same here. Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Oh, yes. So my name is Dr. Dladla, and I have an integrative wellness longevity clinic in New York City. I am located in Gramercy Park on 22nd and Lexington. We basically are a full service clinic, and we really focus on vitality. And there are so many, aspects to vitality. So we're focusing on hormone balancing, weight management, cardiovascular health, just overall general wellness, gut health, which we talked about last time. So I'm happy to be here and talk to you more about our clinic and some of the things that we are focused on.
Beautiful. Gut health, hormones, so much more. And today, heart disease, right? I think that's the
Yes.
topic of conversation. Please share, enlighten us.
Yes. So heart disease is really the number one killer uh, for Americans. And what's interesting is heart disease impacts women. That's the number one reason that women have morbidity, mortality. But I think in our general consciousness about what is going to, be to our detriment, heart disease for women is not on their minds.
Yeah.
Um, there's been like a really good job in terms of educating women about cancer, breast cancer in particular. And I think that that's the number one thing that we think is going to potentially, shorten our lives. But when we talk about heart
Mm-hmm.
disease, this really is like 1 out of 3 women
Wow.
will have a stroke or heart attack.
Really?
And it's very, very pervasive. And I think, the medical establishment, we really haven't done a good job in terms of educating women and men about their risks and what things they can do to prevent it.
And I'm sure you're going to help us with that today because let's break it down.
Yes,
What exactly is it,
yeah,
arterial disease? What's
yes,
happening? Can you explain it in layman's terms to us, please?
yeah. So there's two aspects. There's like the big vessels, right? And
Yeah.
when we think about like a heart attack or stroke, we're thinking about changes inside of the vessel that somehow obstruct the flow of blood to our organs. And when we have the blockage of blood flow to our heart, to areas in our brain, then we're not getting the oxygen and the nutrients that we need to keep things moving. And so that's like one of the number one things people think about. Okay, heart attack and stroke, it means somehow that blood flow is not getting there, brain is not, the heart or the brain are not getting the nutrients that they need, and now they're not functioning, and a part of the heart or the brain can die. So that is really what we think about. But there is something called microvascular disease,
Okay.
and it's within the same family. And
Okay.
this really refers to smaller vessels. So vessels that are going to parts of the brain, vessels that are going to the kidneys. And these vessels, these smaller vessels can get damaged. And it's really a similar mechanism or way that the bigger vessels get damaged.
Yeah.
So what happens inside the wall of the arteries change, they kind of reconfigure, and now you things that would be passing through our bloodstream that wouldn't harm us now kind of get stuck to the wall of the artery, basically making it not perform the way that it should. Now, the thing with microvascular disease is most associated with aging. And this is why it's such an important topic when we discuss longevity. So, with microvascular disease, you can be having little strokes, little heart attacks, and not feel anything and not even know.
Really? That's insane.
And so that so I don't know, like there's some people they've gone to the doctor and they've had like a check of their heart, right? An
Mm-hmm.
EKG during their physical. And sometimes the doctor or the health practitioner will say, "Oh, looks like you had some previous damage to your heart."
Yeah.
And that person may say, "Oh, I had no idea. I didn't know." Or same thing if you get an imaging of your brain. So, so microvascular disease is very, very prevalent, and that's when I say the word arterial disease, it kind of encompasses things that can cause heart attack and stroke, but also things that can cause dementia, kidney damage, and a variety of things.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's really interesting. And the thing is, we go back to women and some of the signs are not there until later. So, some of the signs, for example, women having arterial disease, the first way that women can present is with things like dementia. That can be a strong indication that you do have microvascular disease. Now, if we had kind of caught that earlier, maybe that could have been prevented. But that education and that prevention has to happen much earlier. Women and men are actually being affected by heart disease, microvascular disease much earlier now due to many, many stressors that are in our environment, our lifestyles. So it's really something that it's important that we educate ourselves about.
As a doctor, obviously, just for people that don't know, just share a little bit about your medical background and how you
Oh yeah.
transitioned here. And then I want to continue more because this is someone who has serious full knowledge. I don't even know how to describe it, but really in all sense of the word. So just share a little bit of that for the new
Oh,
timers out
sure.
there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm an internist. I've been an internist for over 20 years. I actually, when I went to school, I had no idea I was going to study medicine. I was really going to be in philosophy or religion. And then I kind of had an epiphany that I should probably go into something that's practical, that can be of use, where I can kind of apply some of the things that I learned in college, to real life. So I went back to school, did my post-bac, and did all my requirements for medical school. I went to Cornell, and yeah, I've been practicing now for over 20 years. I went more into, integrative
Mm-hmm.
medicine after being really tired of just dealing with like the sick sick medicine or just the chronic disease and really just dealing with people or situations after people have already manifested their disease as opposed to focusing on prevention. And just the way that things are structured, it makes it very
Yeah.
difficult for the doctor or the patient to feel satisfied in that encounter because things have to go so quick. And now we're dealing with, okay, do you have X, Y, and Z that's saying you have diabetes or high blood pressure, as opposed to educating and allowing people to really get empowered so they are not coming in with those particular diseases. So this is kind of what led me to kind of shift into integrative medicine, where I have more of the opportunity to focus on prevention. And then if people actually do have these particular diseases, to be able to offer more than just conventional medicine to alleviate their symptoms and ideally reverse their disease.
Got it.
So
Well, thank you. And let's
yeah.
talk a little bit more in depth about
Oh,
some of
sure.
the importance of knowing about heart disease. Who is it affecting most? And I want to go over
Yeah.
some of the symptoms and all. And how do we even check? How do we know if our arteries are, our heart's good? What are some of the
Yeah.
type of tests we do that you offer?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do in the clinic, we have a cardiac prevention program. And it's not only a prevention program, but it's also a program for people who've already experienced a heart attack and stroke, and we are working to prevent them from having a second event or a worse event. So it's a yearly program, and we basically do a lot more follow up, and we look for more symptoms and signs of change than you would do in a conventional setting. So whereas conventional medicine does help, it's not enough. The standard of care is just not sufficient. We're waiting until people get sick before we're addressing these issues. So we look at things like, really more in-depth blood work, looking at their cardiac profile. We're also doing like certain genetic testing. And then we're doing other kind of diagnostic testing to kind of see what's going on with their arteries.
Wow.
But I would say one of the things that it's important is really the education. So if there are certain things that or symptoms that are associated with higher cardiovascular or arterial disease risk, and it doesn't necessarily mean if you have these things, you will definitely have a heart attack or stroke. It just means that there is this relationship where there's an increased incidence of having these outcomes when you have these particular conditions. And I wanted to kind of go over a few of them just so people have these things in their mind, because oftentimes we're not necessarily linking our conditions necessarily to having the risk of heart disease. So it's good if we're aware. Um, but I just also want to make clear that if you have them, it doesn't mean, oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack next week. So one of the things that we see that is linked is our gallstones, which are pretty
Mm-hmm.
common in women, gallstones. Another condition is gout. The mechanism really isn't necessarily super clear. It could be that people that have gout might have underlying insulin resistance,
Okay.
which can lead to diabetes, which is a risk factor for heart
Yeah.
disease. So, kind of all of these things can be impactful. The other interesting thing I learned in my studies is PCOS. So, a lot of women have PCOS, polycystic ovarian
Ovarian
disease,
cyst.
where they
Yep.
have insulin resistance. And it is true that women who do have this are potentially at higher risk for cardiovascular disease. So that's something that, when you're going to the doctor or you're going to your provider and you're seeing that the person might have PCOS, based on blood work or ultrasound, it's something that people should be aware of so they can do preventable things such as exercise, working on their diet, stress reduction, all those things to prevent a cardiovascular event in the future.
Got it.
Another interesting thing we see is heavy metals, and it's something that, again, if you're going to a conventional medical doctor, they may not be testing necessarily for heavy metals, but there is an association with heavy metals and cardiovascular disease. So one thing that we do in our cardiovascular prevention program is we do look at things like heavy metals. We also, kind of linking back to what we talked about in the past, we look at gut health.
Yeah.
And what we see is that when you do have things like leaky gut, that you have those toxins going out into the bloodstream that might be attaching to a vessel wall and impacting the ability of the blood to function and flow properly in through that vessel.
Yeah.
So that's why all of these things are kind of linked together.
Got it. Well,
Yeah.
and just this is insane. I just ask you a random question. Okay, my friend who's 65 just had a stent put in the other night. Now
Oh,
we're
wow.
talking about heart disease, right? So
Yes.
it wasn't the widowmaker. He already had a stent in that.
Oh
I don't,
my
is the
God.
widowmaker an artery or what is the widowmaker?
Yeah. Yes. So it is an artery that's going to the heart. It's kind of perfusing the heart. And
Okay.
it's one of the most important kind of branches in terms of blood flow, right? So when you have a blockage in that area, it is associated with, sudden death. However, if it's caught early, if people kind of recognize the signs and, go into the doctor early, they're able to do something to address that situation.
Got it.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's another interesting point that you're mentioning too about the stents, because sometimes people, women in particular, don't necessarily have the typical signs of like having a heart attack. They may feel things just like fatigue, or they may have jaw pain, very like unusual symptoms, and so often they are missed. So that's again why it's really important to try to, because have this relationship with your own body, your own intuition, to, if you can tell maybe something is wrong, and then really go and try and advocate for yourself and be insistent so you can get the potential evaluation and workup that you need. You know, the way that we're trained, unfortunately, in conventional medicine, you go and you say, "Oh, I'm tired." A lot of times that is just kind of dismissed if something very dramatic is not found on blood work. But there is definitely an association between the fatigue, jaw pain as one of the potential symptoms of women.
Got it.
Um, another interesting one is migraines as well. And a lot of people suffer from migraines. And the mechanism of how we get migraines is constantly kind of changing, and it's not absolutely clear. But again, there is an association with migraines and an increased risk for heart attack and stroke. So, all of these things I think people should be alerted and aware. Also, providers too, aware of what can create a risk down the line in the future. And they should be treated accordingly.
Got it.
But
All
I
right.
think, yeah, so
No, sorry. I'm sorry to digress, but that was a question with the set. But we're talking heart disease, so it just hit me. And I want to talk more about the symptoms, what people should know, what we should be doing, and maybe how we could keep our heart healthy. I know genetics plays a big role in it, but what are some of the things we could do to keep it healthy?
yeah, so I think a lot of, I want to go back to stress. Stress is really a huge thing, because when your body is in that state of fight or flight or freeze, and you have all of this cortisol pumping through your blood, this kind of creates this chronic pressure and stress for the on the system. And so whatever we can do to have some type of program to decrease our stress level is very important, and not just something that we use when we're in the middle of like a panic situation or panic attack, but something to get our body acclimated to that relaxed state, to that parasympathetic state. This is one of the major causes of sickness, heart disease, is this chronic
Ah,
state of people being overworked, exhausted, stressed, depressed, anxious, and it wears on the body. And if we can do things to signal to the body that, yes, we can relax now, right now we are safe, that is really important. And even changing our schedules.
mm-hmm.
There's been an association of people who are working 60 hours or more a week, hate their jobs, miserable, also risk increased risk
Yep.
for heart attack. So yeah, creating those boundaries for ourselves and really trying to prioritize our own health and well-being is really important. And every day, even if it's a small act, like the breathing, the breath work, meditation, even for like 10 minutes, it has an effect that can really help and go a long way in the future. um, taking nutraceuticals, supplements, all the treatments that we provide are important as well, but your emotional state and your stress level is critical. And if you are constantly being flooded with
Yeah.
this, sympathetic overdrive and you're in this cortisol state, some of those treatments are not going to be optimally effective. So that's really, really, really important.
What is okay? My father's someone who ended up getting on the heart transplant list. He has real bad heart
Oh,
disease,
wow.
but he denied three hearts. That's a whole nother story. And this was now 8 years ago. The doctors are like in shock that he defied this, but he's still
Oh, wow.
alive and kicking. But
Amazing.
I, this is something my dad always he still takes, and it's my I don't know what it's called. Excuse my language, but it's like CoQ. It's
Oh,
something.
okay. CoQ10. Yeah.
What
Yes.
is that?
Yeah.
Is
So
that what is that?
yeah.
Sorry.
CoQ10 is really, no, it's really essential for the functioning of the heart, for the functioning of the cells.
Okay.
If like, for example, your dad is on a statin, right? A torvastatin, any of these
Yes,
statins,
correct.
though
He is. Yes.
he is, right? Yeah. So yeah, if he had those conditions, I'm sure they threw him on a statin. So statins are beneficial, but they have downsides. And one of the downsides is that it depletes that CoQ10 cycle. So it's very, very good that your dad is on CoQ10 as he helps to balance some of the negative impacts of the statin, which are probably necessary for him to be on based on his condition.
Got it.
The other thing that, because statins are so common, you brought up statins, the other thing that is really important is that the statins can affect our mitochondria, and the mitochondria is like the powerhouse of the cell.
Okay.
So anything we can do to kind of
Mm-hmm.
support the mitochondria while we're on the stat is really, really important. That's important just in general, because that also has to do with inflammation, aging, but in particular when you are on a statin and have cardiovascular issues.
Got it. Okay, let's continue. We still got some more time here. Go ahead.
Yes,
What else
sure.
do we have to talk more about heart disease? Sorry.
So, so another interesting thing that can affect your risk is light pollution. Light pollution. So that's meaning like when you are in a hospital, God forbid, you have the lights on all night, things beeping, all those sounds kind of disrupt your circadian rhythm. Or if you're out, all the bright lights out in the city, you're walking out at night, all the things to impact your sleep and your rhythm also can increase your
Mm,
risk. That's why, the foundational things like stress reduction,
yeah,
sleep, all of those things are very, very important to your heart health. I mean, no one thinks about light pollution, but that that really is something that can definitely impact you.
interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, some of the other interesting like conditions, hypothyroidism, thyroid's out of whack, kidney disease. That's another interesting one. And another one that is really, really important for women is your resting heart rate. So it was found that women who have a resting heart rate above 76, and now you can have a wearable, you can see what your resting heart rate is, that also has been associated with increased risk of sudden cardiac death. And it's not clear why. There are many, many factors that go into why that heart rate is elevated. But again, if we can do things to kind of activate our parasympathetic nervous system, our relaxation center, that can help to decrease that resting heart rate. But that is a really important thing. And it's something that if we notice, we can see that we should take to our doctors or our healthcare practitioners to address it.
Beautiful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. All right. In our last few minutes together, how can
Yeah.
we kind of sum up today's conversation for everyone?
Yeah. So I think one of the important aspects when we're talking about longevity, anti-aging is heart health.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to do what we can to prevent cardiovascular disease and to kind of diagnose. And next week we can talk more about the ways that we can diagnose and the things that we can do in terms of nutraceuticals and things to treat. But it is one of the key facets of longevity. So longevity is a very wide and vast topic, and we should definitely consider that along with gut health, hormonal balance, weight management. All of those things go into our overall vitality. And
Perfect.
women in particular have to be vigilant, communicate with their healthcare providers if they're having any symptoms, but also to educate themselves about what things are associated with heart disease.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. All right. And
Thank
how can
you.
we reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can call, we are 212-970-9401 if you'd like to have a consult with us. And then also you can email at drdladla at
Okay.
gramercyparkintegrative.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I hope you have a fantastic day. Enjoy the 4th. Thank you.
yes.
Enjoy the time off with your family, and we'll be back in touch next week. Can't wait to hear more. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Nice
Thank
seeing you.
you. Bye-bye. Have a great day, hon.
Bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.